Tasha Morgan never remembered the exact second her body gave out. What she remembered, what her mind would replay later like a broken film reel, were the sounds. The clatter of an insulin bottle slipping from her fingers. The pharmacist's sharp gasp cutting through the sterile air. The thud of her knees hitting the cold tile. And the whisper-soft rustling of strangers turning to stare. Then came the scent, sharp, medicinal, unforgiving. A smell that always reminded her of hospitals, of IV drips, of beeping machines, of loss. And just before the darkness swallowed her whole, she remembered the worst thing of all. The look people gave her. That look. The one she had hated her entire life. Pity. She would rather collapse 1,000 times than see that look again. But the darkness came anyway. It wrapped around her like heavy velvet, pressing, suffocating, until suddenly something cut through it. Arms. Strong, warm, steady. Lifting her before she hit the ground. It didn't make sense. No one should have reached her in time. No human reaction was that fast. Yet someone had caught her, held her, as if she weighed nothing at all. And in that darkness before her mind fully slipped under, she saw a flash of a memory that didn't belong to this moment. A photograph. Old. Wrinkled at the edges. Her mother smiling wide, the way Black Southern women smile when they're trying to hide a lifetime of exhaustion behind grace. And beside her, a teenage boy, white, blonde, with eyes like a Carolina summer, eyes that didn't belong to her world but were burned into that picture and into Tasha's memory because she'd spent years wondering who he was and why her mother kept that photo hidden inside a Bible she never let anyone touch. She had never known the boy's name, and she had never expected to see eyes like that in her real, present, collapsing life. When Tasha's consciousness clawed its way back, it returned in fragments like someone piecing together stained glass with trembling fingers. Light, noise, breathing, her own heartbeat pounding too hard. Then, a face, far too close, far too beautiful. A man was holding her, no cradling her, like she mattered, like she was fragile and precious and worth protecting. He wore a tailored gray suit that looked custom-fitted to a body built from both gym hours and unfair genetics. His jawline could have cut glass. His hair was a winter gold that caught the fluorescent lights in pale halos. And his eyes, Lord, those eyes were blue with a depth that made her chest tighten. He looked terrified. "Don't move," he said softly, his voice low and steady, like he'd been trained to speak to people on the edge of breaking. "You're safe. I've got you." His words shouldn't have soothed her, but they did. Tasha blinked hard, trying to focus. Everything was spinning. Her blood sugar, her fear, her embarrassment. But the world gradually steadied around the shape of this man. His arms were still around her. "Please," she whispered, throat dry. "Let me up." He eased her upright, but kept a hand behind her back in case she fell again. The warmth of his palm sank through the thin cotton of her shirt, grounding her. She forced herself to breathe, counting the beats, like she used to tell her childhood patients to do when panic rose in their small chests. 1, 2, 3. Don't faint again. Don't cry. Don't let this stranger see how close you came to dying on a pharmacy floor, because insulin in America cost more than your dignity. Who are you?" she whispered. The man hesitated only for a fraction of a second, but she noticed. His jaw tightened. His throat bobbed. Something flickered behind those blue eyes. Recognition, fear, pain. "I'm Logan," he said finally. Logan Pierce. The name cracked through her memory like thunder. Pierce. Her stomach dropped, because Pierce was the surname written in delicate cursive on the back of her mother's old photograph. Tasha's pulse roared in her ears. It had to be coincidence. Charleston was full of Pierces. The name could mean anything. But when she looked at Logan again, really looked, she felt something cold slide down her spine. He looked like the boy in the picture, only older, sharper, beautiful, in a different way. But those eyes were identical. Her vision blurred again, not from faintness this time, but from something far more dangerous. Confusion, fear, curiosity. Before she could speak, Logan's gaze dropped suddenly. His entire body went rigid. "Tasha, can I?" His voice cracked. "May I see your necklace?" She frowned in confusion until she followed his stare. Her pendant had slipped free from beneath her shirt during the fall, a small worn silver locket shaped like a teardrop. Her mother's locket. The only thing she left behind besides grief and unanswered questions. "No," Tasha breathed. "No, you don't know this necklace. You can't." But Logan leaned closer, his breath catching. "I have seen it," he whispered hoarsely. "I saw it when I was a kid. I swear I've seen that locket before." Impossible. Only two people had ever seen this locket. Her mother and Tasha. That was it. Always. Her breath hitched. The pharmacy walls felt like they were closing in. How she demanded, voice shaking. "Where would you have seen my mother's necklace?" Logan opened his mouth, then shut it. His eyes darted away. His jaw clenched. "Tasha, please," he said quietly. "Not here. Not while you're still unwell." "Tell me," she snapped, gripping the locket as if it could anchor her. "Right now." He exhaled slowly, a sound filled with dread. Before he could answer, the pharmacist returned, flustered and worried, breaking the tension. But Logan's eyes never left Tasha. And Tasha knew in her bones, that he was hiding something. Something about her mother. Something about that picture. Something about her. Her heart slammed against her ribs. "You need help," Logan said again, softer this time. "Please, let me make sure you're okay." But his gentle tone only made the knot in her chest tighten. Because no stranger should have looked at her with that mix of fear, relief, and longing, as if losing her would break something inside him. "What do you want from me?" she whispered. His expression fractured for the briefest moment. "The truth," he said, "and something else. But I can't say it yet." Before Tasha could press him, another shock hit her. A woman stood near the pharmacy entrance, staring at Logan with wide eyes. She lifted her phone, snapping a picture. And then Tasha heard someone whisper, "Is that Logan Pierce? The billionaire?" The room spun for an entirely new reason. Billionaire. Lord Jesus. You're telling me a billionaire caught me while I was fainting on a pharmacy floor? Her humiliation spiked. But Logan didn't seem to notice the whispers or the camera flashes. His attention was locked entirely, completely on her. "Tasha," he said, his voice trembling just slightly. "Please trust me. Just for a moment." Trust was not easy for her. Trust had teeth. Trust cost too much. But the way he said her name, the way his fingers shook, there was something else threading through his fear. Recognition. A memory. Or maybe a ghost. Tasha swallowed hard. "What do you know about my mother?" she asked softly. Logan shut his eyes, pained. When he opened them, they were full of a truth he wasn't ready to give her. "More than you think," he murmured. "And not nearly enough." The floor seemed to tilt. Before she could say anything else, Logan reached for her slowly, like he didn't want to scare her, and helped her stand. His touch was careful, but steady. protective in a way that felt too intimate, too familiar. She didn't know him, and yet somehow, she did. He escorted her out of the pharmacy, shielding her from the staring crowd, as if he'd done it 1,000 times before, as if defending her was an instinct he didn't understand. Outside, the Charleston air wrapped around them, warm, humid, smelling faintly of magnolia and ocean. But inside Tasha's chest, icy panic churned. This man, this stranger had recognized her mother's necklace, and his last name matched the mysterious boy in her mother's hidden photo. Coincidence didn't stretch that far. Something was wrong. Very, very wrong. Tasha, Logan said softly as he guided her to sit on a bench beneath an oak dripping with Spanish moss. There's something I have to tell you, but not while you're shaking like this. She looked down. Her hands were trembling violently. I don't understand what's happening, she whispered. Why do you know me? Logan's jaw flexed, and pain flashed across his face, as if he'd been carrying the answer for too long. I don't know you, he said truthfully, but I think I knew someone who mattered to you. The world froze. Who? Tasha breathed. He hesitated, and then finally, your mother. Tasha's heart stopped. I think I knew your mother, Logan said, voice barely a whisper. And if I'm right, then the reason I found you today wasn't an accident. A cold wind moved through her, though the air was warm. What are you saying? She whispered. Logan met her gaze, his eyes dark with something between fear and fate. I'm saying, he exhaled, that whatever happened to make you faint today is only the beginning of what he didn't answer. But as a shadow crossed his expression, Tasha understood one thing with terrifying clarity. The man who caught her wasn't just a stranger. He was a link to a past she didn't know existed, and a storm she wasn't ready to face. The air outside the pharmacy felt too bright, too loud, too alive for the chaos unraveling inside Tasha's chest. Cars passed. Tourists laughed. A breeze rustled through the Spanish moss overhead. Life moved on, indifferent to the fact that her world had just been split clean down the middle. Logan stayed close enough that she could feel the warmth of his body, but not touching her unless she reached for him. He'd gone, still watchful, like a man afraid that one wrong movement might send her running. Tasha's breaths came shallow and uneven. Her mother. He'd said he knew her mother. Not might have. Not maybe. He'd spoken with the certainty of someone who had already seen the answer in her face. She swallowed hard, the taste of fear metallic on her tongue. I need to go home, she finally whispered. Logan nodded immediately. Let me drive you. You shouldn't walk anywhere in this state. She almost refused. Pride surged hot and wild, the same pride that had built walls around her for years. But her body trembled beneath her clothes, weak from the collapse, the adrenaline, the revelations she wasn't ready for. And she didn't trust herself to stand, much less walk alone. So she nodded. Logan placed a careful hand at her back, guiding her toward a sleek silver car parked just down the street. The kind of car that cost more than everything she'd ever owned combined. He unlocked it with a soft beep and opened the passenger door for her. But as Tasha went to step in, she froze. Because the leather interior smelled faintly of cedar and something dark, expensive. And for the first time since waking up in his arms, she was truly aware of the chasm between them. Her, a black woman who'd spent the last year drowning quietly, paycheck to gig job to overdue bill. Him, a white billionaire with a last name stamped across half the waterfront skyline. A stranger who claimed he had known her mother. She gripped the doorframe, breathing through the sudden rush of dizziness. You're safe, Logan said softly from behind her. Nothing has to be decided right now. He spoke to her like this gentle patient, almost careful. It both grounded her and terrified her, because no man had ever spoken to her that way, not with tenderness, not with respect, not with something deeper she couldn't yet name. Tasha, Logan asked, concerned. She climbed in because she didn't trust her legs to hold her anymore. The drive was quiet, at first filled only with the hum of the engine and the distant cries of seagulls drifting in through the half-open windows. Logan rested one hand loosely on the steering wheel. The other fidgeted against his thigh, tapping an irregular rhythm. He wasn't calm. He wasn't composed. He wasn't anything close to the polished billionaire people whispered about inside the pharmacy. He looked shaken and afraid. Not afraid of her, but of something else entirely. It made her chest tighten. Finally, she broke the silence. What was her name? Logan's fingers stilled. Your mother? Yes. Her voice barely rose above the wind, but he heard it. She felt the shift in the car in him, a tightening like he'd been holding his breath since the pharmacy, and had to consider whether releasing it might break something fragile. He spoke slowly, carefully. I don't know all of it, he admitted. I was a kid, 7, maybe 8, when she came into my life for a short time. Tasha leaned back, heart pounding. Short time. Came into my life. Her mother. You knew her personally, she pressed, voice trembling. He hesitated, then nodded. I think so. You think or you know? Logan's jaw flexed. I want to be careful before I say something wrong. Memory is tricky for kids. But I remember a woman who looked like you. Not just the features your mother was darker skinned than you, but the presence. Tasha closed her eyes. Presence. Her mother had a presence like summer heat, gentle but undeniable. A softness that felt like shelter. What was she doing with you? Tasha asked. Why was she around your family? Logan's grip tightened on the wheel. I don't know the whole story. My father, he wasn't the kind of man who talked about the past. But I remember her voice, her laugh, and I remember something else, something that didn't make sense to me until now. Her breath hitched. What? Logan glanced at her. She gave me a gift once, a small wooden box, handmade. The words struck her like a blow, and inside he continued. There was a folded scrap of paper with the letter M written on it in looping script. She blinked hard. My mother's name was Mariah, she whispered. Logan nodded almost painfully. That's why I reacted the moment I saw your necklace, because the carving on the wooden box, it was the same teardrop shape. The air in the car thickened, impossible to breathe. A connection, a real connection, one she'd never known existed. But before Tasha could ask more, something inside her shut down, overwhelmed. She grabbed the sides of her seat, feeling the world tilt again. Pull over, she choked out. Logan did fast, smoothly, with surgeon-like precision, guiding the car into a quiet side street, shaded by ancient oak branches. He turned off the engine, but didn't move, didn't touch her, didn't speak. He waited. Tasha shoved open the door and stepped out, leaning against the car as she tried to breathe. The humid Charleston air pressed heavy on her skin, beating at her temples. Her mother had secrets. Her mother had never told her. Her mother had known the Pierces. But the Pierces were old money Charleston royalty. And Mariah Morgan had been a young black woman working 3 jobs to keep food on the table. How had their worlds collided? Tasha, Logan said softly, stepping beside her but still keeping distance. I'm sorry. I didn't want to overwhelm you. She laughed, harsh, humorless. Everything overwhelms me right now. He nodded, accepting her anger like he deserved it. Just tell me. she said, voice trembling. Is my mother's story tied to your family? Is that why you recognized me? Logan swallowed hard. Yes, I think so. Her stomach nodded. And that photo she pushed. The one with the boy standing next to her, Logan's breath hitched almost imperceptibly. My father kept very few pictures from his youth, but the ones he saved. His gaze held hers. That photo was one of them. Her pulse skittered painfully. Why? He looked away, anguish etched into every line of his face. I don't know, he confessed, but I've spent the last year trying to understand. And today when I saw you fall, I thought I was imagining things. Then I saw the necklace, and in what she demanded, and I realized something I should have realized a long time ago. He turned fully toward her blue eyes, vibrating with something fierce and vulnerable. I think your mother saved my father's life. The world went silent, not stopped, not paused, silent. Saved. His life, she whispered, barely forming the words. Logan nodded. And he never forgave himself for not being able to save hers. Tasha stared at him, breath trapped in her lungs. My mother died in a house fire, she said quietly. I was 13. I know, Logan whispered, voice cracking. He said he knew. Her knees nearly buckled. Why, she whispered. Why would your father know something like that? Why did he care? I don't have the answer yet, Logan admitted. But he left something for me when he died. A letter. And it mentions... He stopped. Because something behind Tasha had shifted. A figure, standing in the shade across the street, watching them. A man. Dark suit, hands in pockets, expression unreadable. Tasha stiffened. Do you know him? Logan's jaw hardened. Yes. Her skin prickled. Who is he? A problem, Logan murmured. One I didn't want you to meet yet. The man lifted a hand in greeting. Not friendly, not threatening, just assessing. Then he turned and disappeared down the sidewalk. Tasha's pulse raced. What was that? Someone who works for my family, Logan said tightly. Someone who monitors things I don't want monitored. Fear slid through her like cold water. Why would he follow you? She whispered. Logan hesitated. Too long. And dread filled her. He finally looked at her with an honesty so raw it made her shiver. Because he said you're not the only one trying to uncover the past. Her breath stilled. And whatever happened between your mother and my father, Logan added quietly, there are people in my family who don't want it found. The air froze around them, and Tasha understood fainting at the pharmacy wasn't the beginning of a love story. It was the beginning of a secret buried for decades by a man whose legacy Logan had inherited, and whose sins might not be dead after all. For several long seconds, neither of them spoke. The quiet street felt suspended in time oak branches, swaying overhead, heat shimmering in the late afternoon air, a dog barking somewhere in the distance. But none of it touched Tasha. Her entire world had condensed into three things. A mother she thought she knew, a man she shouldn't trust, but somehow did, and a shadow from his past watching them both. Tasha rubbed her palms against her jeans, grounding herself in the rough texture. Her pulse was too loud, her thoughts too sharp. Her chest felt too small for all the questions pressing against her ribs. She finally forced herself to speak. Why would your family watch you? Her voice was breathless but steady. Logan looked toward the street where the man had disappeared, jaw tightening. Because Pierce Development isn't just a company. It's a machine. My father built it that way. And machines don't like when gears move on their own. That man, she said slowly, the one staring at us. He wasn't just following you. Logan's gaze returned to hers, and something in his expression softened. No, he admitted quietly. He was observing you too. Her stomach twisted. But why me? I'm nobody. Don't, Logan murmured. Don't finish that sentence. But the words were already tangled on her tongue. A nobody with a chronic illness. A nobody who collapsed in a pharmacy. A nobody scraping by with gig jobs, living in a half-unpacked apartment she could barely afford. She swallowed hard. What does your family want with me? She whispered. Logan stepped closer, but not all the way. He kept just enough distance to show her he wasn't trying to trap her, even as every line of his posture pleaded with her to trust him. I don't think they want you, he said softly. I think they want what you represent. Her breath caught, which is what Logan hesitated, searching for words without landmines. Answers, he said finally. Loose threads they didn't know existed. A woman whose face resembles someone who once mattered to my father, and a link between two timelines no one ever thought would merge. It didn't make sense. And it made perfect sense. All at once. Tasha shook her head. It's too much. Logan nodded. I know. No, really. This is insane, she said, voice rising. I faint, you catch me. And suddenly my dead mother is tangled up in your billionaire family's secrets. That's not real life. That's a coincidence, he offered. That's not what this feels like, she snapped. And she wasn't wrong. None of it felt accidental. It felt orchestrated. Not by Logan, she was sure of that. But by something older, deeper, threaded through the decades between their parents and now. A warm breeze blew through lifting strands of her hair. Logan watched the motion like it carried answers he couldn't grasp. Tasha, he said gently, I need you to know something. No, she whispered. Not another revelation. Not yet. I can't breathe as it is. He paused, then nodded. Okay. The simple word loosened something in her chest. Because he wasn't forcing her. He wasn't trying to steer her. He was listening. Really listening. She wrapped her arms around herself, trying to quiet her thoughts. But another emotion was rising, one she hadn't expected. Fear had an undercurrent. It flowed into curiosity. And curiosity dangerously flowed into connection. She looked at Logan again, and there it was. The truth she didn't want to acknowledge. She wasn't just afraid of his family, or his father's secrets, or her mother's hidden past. She was afraid of him. Not because he was dangerous, but because he wasn't. Because he looked at her with something she had never been given: patience, recognition, wonder, hope. It made her feel seen, too seen. She bit her lip and turned away, staring down the street where the shadow had vanished. We shouldn't be talking, she whispered. Your family, whoever they are, they clearly don't want me involved. Logan's voice was quiet but steady. They don't decide who I'm allowed to care about. Her spine straightened. She turned slowly. That's not what this is, she said, heat rushing to her cheeks. We don't even know each other. His blue eyes held hers. Soft. Devastating. I know what it feels like when something is meant. She cut him off. Don't. He blinked. Don't what? Don't make this bigger than it is. Her voice wavered. You're a billionaire with a last name that owns half this city. I fainted in a pharmacy. Our lives don't overlap. He laughed once, a quiet, broken sound. Tasha. Our lives collided. Hard. And nothing about that felt random. She looked away quickly, the intensity of his words burning too hot. This wasn't happening. She wasn't falling for a stranger with eyes like Atlantic water and secrets that could drown her. She wasn't. "Take me home," she whispered. This time, Logan didn't argue. The ride to her apartment was muted heavy with tension. Neither of them knew how to navigate. Tasha stared out the window, watching Charleston blur past in soft, smudged colors of brick pastel and sunlight. She'd always liked this city, its charm, its history, its music in the streets. But now, it felt like the city had eyes, like the past had roots beneath every cobblestone, like she was being pulled into a story she didn't remember signing up for. Her apartment building looked smaller than usual when they arrived, more fragile. Logan parked but didn't turn off the engine. He didn't want to leave her yet, and she hated that she could feel it. She opened the door but paused. "Thank you for driving me." Logan nodded, his expression unreadable. "Can I walk you up?" "No," she said quickly. "I need space." He swallowed hard, then nodded again. But before she could step out, he reached into the glove compartment and pulled out something small, a folded piece of paper, edges softened with time. "My father gave this to me before he died," Logan said. "It's related, I think. But I'm not giving it to you because of that." "Then, why?" she whispered. He met her eyes. "Because whatever this is, whatever our family's left behind, you deserve to see it too, when you're ready." She stared at the paper, but didn't take it. "Keep it," she whispered. "I can't handle more today." Logan didn't push. He tucked it away carefully. Then he said the last thing she expected. "Can I see you again?" Her breath left her. He wasn't reading a script. He wasn't flirting. He wasn't performing billionaire charm. He looked hopeful and terrified and earnest in a way that felt like it might break her. "Logan," she began. "You don't owe me anything," he said quickly. I want to make sure you're okay. And maybe," his voice softened, "maybe I want to understand this us too." There it was again, that dangerous spark. The part of her that had been lonely for far too long leaned toward him like a plant bending toward the sun. But everything else, fear, logic, self-preservation, pulled her back. "I don't know," she whispered honestly. A flicker of disappointment crossed his features, but he didn't hide it behind charm or bravado. He simply nodded, absorbing it with a quiet grace that made her chest tighten. "Okay," he murmured. "When you do know, call me." He didn't ask for her number. He didn't pressure. He simply gave her choice, maybe the one thing she needed most. Tasha stepped out of the car before she could say something reckless and climbed the stairs to her building without looking back. But halfway up, she hesitated. She shouldn't turn around. She should close the door, breathe, sleep, wake up tomorrow, and convince herself this was all a fever dream. She should. But she didn't. She turned. Logan was still parked there watching her, his face a swirl of longing fear and something deeper she wasn't ready to name. For one suspended moment, they held each other's gaze across the quiet street. Then Logan lifted a hand, not in farewell, not in pleading, but in a gentle, steady promise. She didn't lift her hand back, but she didn't look away either. That was the moment she realized she wasn't afraid of Logan Pierce. She was afraid of the way he made her want. Inside her apartment, the silence was suffocating. She stumbled to the kitchen, gripping the counter, feeling everything hit her at once. Her mother knew the Pierces. Logan's father kept a picture of her. Someone was watching them. And Logan. Logan looked at her like she was a missing piece he'd been searching for. She squeezed her eyes shut, fighting the hot sting behind them. She couldn't do this. She couldn't fall for him. Not with secrets threading between them like tripwires ready to explode. But as she sank onto her mattress, hands trembling, One thought refused to leave her alone. Why did Logan's father save a picture of her mother Tasha, curled into herself? Because that answer might be the one thing she feared more than falling for Logan Pierce. Tasha didn't sleep that night. She lay awake in the dim hush of her apartment as moonlight crept across the ceiling in pale stripes. Her mind a storm of memories, questions, and the sharp blue of Logan Pierce's eyes lingering at the edge of her thoughts. The city outside buzzed in its own rhythm. Distant nightlife, the hum of a passing car, a couple arguing on the sidewalk below. But her world was quiet, too quiet, heavy with the weight of a truth she wasn't sure she wanted to find. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the man who'd been watching them earlier. Not Logan. The other one. The first shadow in a mystery she didn't understand. Her chest constricted. Whoever that man was, he hadn't followed Logan. He had followed them. By dawn, exhaustion dragged at her bones. But something else tugged harder. A need for answers that no amount of fear could silence. She reached for the small wooden box hidden in her nightstand. Inside lay the photograph she had always avoided studying too closely. Her mother, young, radiant, laughing, stood beside a tall white teenager with golden hair and a grin that didn't match the somber presence she felt in the Pierces now. They were leaning over a picnic table, sharing a sandwich, like two people who didn't have a care in the world. She traced her mother's face with her thumb. "You kept this from me," she whispered into the quiet. Why? There was no answer. Just the steady, unstoppable pull of a truth she had spent years refusing to chase. She didn't text Logan. She didn't call. But by mid-afternoon, she found herself standing outside the place she least expected to be, a pier overlooking the harbor, where she had once met a woman her mother claimed was just a family friend, Mrs. Caldwell. Older now, hair whiter than Tasha remembered, but her eyes sharp, reflective, carrying the weight of secrets, hadn't changed. "Tasha Morgan," she said, adjusting her sunglasses. "It's been a while. I need to ask you something," Tasha said without preamble, "and I need the truth. All of it." Mrs. Caldwell studied her like she was deciding whether Tasha was ready or whether knowing would destroy her. "You met someone," she said finally. "Someone connected to the Pierces." Tasha's breath hitched. "How did you, honey?" the woman said with a wry, almost sad smile. "Your mother wasn't the only perceptive one." The waves slapped against the pier. Faint laughter drifted from a tour boat passing in the distance. Everything felt too peaceful for the storm gathering inside her. "Who were they to her?" Tasha asked. "To my mother." Mrs. Caldwell's expression tightened. She looked away toward the water. "They were complicated," she said. "She was complicated." "And you?" Her eyes softened. "You're walking right into a history that hurt her deeply." Tasha's nails dug into her palms. "Logan's father kept her picture." Mrs. Caldwell nodded slowly. "Yes, because he loved her." The world tilted. Loved. The word hit her like a punch to the ribs. "My mother never said she wouldn't." Mrs. Caldwell's voice trembled. "Because your mother was the love his family refused to let him have." Her pulse roared in her ears. "Refused Pierce development did not tolerate scandal," the woman said, "especially not the kind involving a black woman and the heir to their entire empire. Their reputation meant everything. They tore those two apart before either of them had a chance to fight for it." Tasha didn't realize she was shaking until Mrs. Caldwell touched her hand. "Your mother left Charleston to protect you," she whispered. "From them, from what they were capable of." A cold shiver slid down Tasha's spine. "But why now?" she whispered. "Why me?" Mrs. Caldwell squeezed her fingers. "Because history has a way of circling back, and the Pierces Some of them don't like ghosts coming home. Tasha stepped back. What are they afraid of? That you exist? The pier spun. She grabbed the railing to steady herself. She didn't understand yet, but she could feel the truth closing in, suffocating in its inevitability. Tasha. Mrs. Caldwell said gently, whatever you do now, be careful with the Pierces. They protect their legacy at any cost. Tasha swallowed hard. Logan isn't like them. No, the woman said softly. He's his father's son, not his grandfather's. But he's still a Pierce. That world pulls people in and chews them alive. A tremor ran through Tasha, not from fear, but from the terrifying realization that she had already stepped into that world, and she didn't want to step back out. Can I ask you something else? She whispered. Of course. Do you think Logan knows about my mother? About all of it? Mrs. Caldwell hesitated. If he does, he hasn't put the pieces together yet, but someone around him has. The memory of the man from the street stabbed through her chest. I need to go, Tasha said, voice thin. Thank you. As she walked away, the wind rustled through the Spanish moss overhead like warning whispers in a language older than memory. She didn't intend to go to Logan's office. But somehow her feet carried her there toward the Pierce Development Tower rising like a polished blade against the Charleston sky. Glass steel wealth legacy. She felt small standing before it, the weight of a family dynasty pressing down on her from every shining window. Inside, the air smelled like eucalyptus and money. Receptionists in immaculate suits moved with quiet efficiency. Security guards watched her with polite curiosity. She felt out of place, a crack in the polished surface. But when Logan stepped into the lobby and saw her, he didn't hesitate. Tasha. His voice broke slightly on her name. Are you okay? No. Yes. Neither. I needed to talk to you, she said, her throat tight. Come upstairs, he murmured. His office was all clean lines and warm wood city views stretching in every direction, like he was sitting at the top of the world. But he didn't carry himself like a king. Not with her. He closed the door, turned to her, and everything inside him softened. What happened? She could have lied, but she didn't want to. Not with him. I spoke to someone who knew my mother, she said quietly. Someone who confirmed your father cared about her. Logan inhaled sharply, but not with surprise. Tasha, he whispered. I thought you weren't ready. Don't. She lifted a hand. Don't protect me from this. He looked pained. It's not protection. It's fear. Fear of hurting you with truths I can't undo. Her chest twisted. Logan. I need to know. Did your family know about her? About me? He didn't answer at first. And that silence was an answer. Tasha felt the ground shift beneath her. You're not the first person they've watched, he said finally. But you're the first they've watched because of me. Her pulse stuttered. Because of you. He met her eyes, and something raw flickered there. Vulnerability, dread, longing. They don't like the way I look at you. She froze. How do you look at me? Like you're not a problem, he whispered. Like you're not a scandal waiting to happen. Like you're mine. Her breath caught, because those words didn't sound like ownership. They sounded like confession, like yearning, like a man who'd tried not to feel something and failed miserably. Logan, she whispered. He stepped closer slowly, giving her space to stop him. She didn't move. Tasha, he said softly. I'm trying so damn hard not to complicate your life, but I can't seem to stay away from you. Her heart pounded so painfully it nearly hurt. This is dangerous, she whispered. I know. He reached up, brushing a trembling strand of hair from her cheek. but so is walking away. She didn't lean into his touch, but she didn't pull back either. Tasha, he murmured, voice low, tell me what you're thinking. I'm thinking, she breathed, that the more I learn about your family, the more scared I get. And me? He asked. Are you scared of me? She hesitated, then shook her head. No, she whispered. I'm scared of how much I trust you. His eyes softened. Then trust me with this too, whatever secret you found today. Tell me. She opened her mouth, but before she could speak, the door burst open. A tall, elegant woman with ice-pale hair and a tailored suit strode in like she owned the building or him. Logan, she said, sharply, ignoring Tasha entirely. We need to talk. Now. He stiffened. Mother. This is not Mother. Tasha's stomach dropped. The woman's gaze finally slid to her, cold, assessing, as if Tasha were a misfiled document to be erased. Oh, Mrs. Pierce said with a thin smile. So, the rumors were true. Logan stepped protectively in front of Tasha. Enough, he snapped. Not here. Mrs. Pierce raised a brow. Then we'll handle this at home. She turned to leave, then paused, and with a voice quiet enough to chill bone, she added, You need to choose Logan before this goes any further, before she becomes more than a distraction. When the door closed behind her, the silence left behind was suffocating. Tasha's heart hammered. She hates me. She doesn't know you, Logan said fiercely, but she knows enough to see me as a threat. Logan didn't deny it. And that was the moment Tasha realized Logan wasn't the danger. It was his world. A world that had already taken one black woman from the Pierces and might not tolerate another. She exhaled shakily. Logan, what happens if they force you to choose? His voice was barely a whisper. I already did. Her breath caught, but before she could respond, before she could decide whether to run or fall, a notification buzzed on his desk. Logan glanced at the screen and went pale. Tasha, he said, voice trembling, you need to see this. He turned the phone toward her. It was a photo of her, taken earlier, on the pier. The caption, Leave Charleston, or she learns the truth the hard way. Tasha's blood turned to ice. Someone was watching her. Someone knew exactly what she was digging into, and someone was ready to bury her with it. She looked up at Logan, horror mixing with something else. Resolve. Logan, she whispered, I think your family isn't the only one hiding something. He reached for her hand. This time she let him hold it, because the storm had arrived, and neither of them could walk into it alone. For a long, breathless moment, neither of them moved. The photo on Logan's phone glowed cold and threatening between them. Tasha captured mid-step on the pier sunlight, behind her shadow stretching at her feet. Whoever took it had been close. Very close. Tasha felt her throat constrict, her breath coming tight and fast. This is a threat. Yes, Logan said, voice low and shaking with a barely bridled fury. And not a subtle one. Her skin prickled, every instinct screaming that she was exposed, watched, vulnerable. The kind of vulnerability she never allowed herself, not since childhood, not since survival, became her only language. Logan stepped forward like he could shield her from the world, but she lifted a hand, needing space to breathe. I need to understand something, she said softly. Is this your family? His jaw clenched. I don't know. God, Tasha, I don't want it to be them. But the Pierces, they protect their legacy like a holy relic. If they think you're tied to my father's past, they'd want me gone. She finished, a bitter taste rising in her mouth. The truth of it sat between them, heavy and ugly. Her heart hammered against her ribs, but beneath the fear was something sharper. Anger. The righteous kind. The kind that came from carrying herself through life with strength no one ever acknowledged. "I'm not disappearing," she whispered. "I'm not running because someone took a picture." Logan's eyes flickered with something proud and terrified at once. "I wasn't going to ask you to." She looked up sharply. "Weren't you?" Pain crossed his expression. "I'd rather burn my entire world than lose you to it." The confession hit hard, unexpected, raw, almost reckless. It unraveled something in her chest she'd been holding together with stubbornness and fear. Still, another truth weighed on her tongue. "Logan," she whispered, "this started long before us. Before that pharmacy. Before my mother ever left Charleston. We're standing in the middle of something bigger. I know." He stepped closer slowly, carefully. "And I'm not walking away." But a sharp knock on the office door cut through the moment. Logan stiffened. "Come in." The door opened, and Mark Danner, Logan's CFO and longtime family friend, stepped inside. Older than Logan by 15 years, impeccably dressed, always precise. But today his face was tight, his gaze sharp. "Logan, we have a problem," Mark said, then stopped when he saw Tasha. "Oh, I didn't realize you had a guest." The way he said guest made Tasha's spine straighten. "This is Tasha." Logan said, tone firm, almost defiant. "And if you have something to say, you can say it in front of her." Mark's jaw flicked surprise, concern, calculation. "Fine. But this is delicate." He set a folder on Logan's desk and slid it toward him. The thick kind of folder that smelled of secrets, old paper, and decisions made in smoke-filled rooms. "I found this in your father's private archive," Mark said quietly. "Your mother asked me to review it before she addressed the situation." Tasha froze. "The situation?" Logan opened the folder and immediately went still. Tasha couldn't see the contents, only the shock ripple through him like electricity. His fingers tightened on the pages. "Is this real?" "I double-checked the dates," Mark said. "The signatures, the hospital records, all of it." Logan's throat worked. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" "Because your family decided long ago it was better buried," Mark said gently. "And they weren't wrong until now." Tasha felt the air thin. "What is it?" Logan lifted his eyes to hers. Just one look, and she knew whatever was in that folder would change everything. He turned it around. Tasha stared. Her body went cold. Her mother's name, typed clearly. Alongside another name, Edward Pierce, Logan's father. And beneath it a single phrase that hit like a blade: emergency admission, maternity complications. Patient delivered a viable female infant. Tasha's blood roared in her ears. The room wavered. "That's not possible," she whispered. That can't be me. My mother, never, she would have told me. She, her knees buckled. She caught herself on the desk. Logan was already there, hands hovering but not touching her without permission. "Tasha," he murmured, agony in his voice. "I don't know how much of this is true. I don't know what was hidden or why. But we will figure it out together." The floor felt like it tilted sideways. Her vision blurred like she was underwater. "My mother never would have hidden my father," she whispered. "She wouldn't have lied about that. She wouldn't have—" She swallowed a sob. No. 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 She was not weak. She would not fall apart. Not here. Not in front of these men. Not because of the Pierces. "I need air," she choked out. Tasha Logan reached for her. Don't. Her voice cracked like glass. Just don't. She turned and left the office. Not running, not stumbling, but walking with the rigid, unbreakable posture of someone refusing to collapse. When she reached the street, the city noise crashed into her car horns. Gulls, chatter, footsteps, everything moving too fast, too loud, too alive. She pressed a hand to her chest. Her heart felt wrong. Her breath shuddered. Her memories twisted. Her childhood. The stories her mother told. The absence of any man in her photos. Were they all lies or protection? She closed her eyes, steadying herself. Tasha. Her pulse jumped. She turned slowly. Logan standing a few feet away, rain threatening in the clouds behind him. His suit jacket off-tie loosened, desperation in every line of his body. He didn't reach for her this time. He just stood there, open and vulnerable, like he would take any punishment she gave. You should have stayed upstairs, she said shakily. I couldn't, he whispered. Not when you walked out like that. Logan. I need space, she said, voice breaking. I need to breathe without your world suffocating me. He flinched but nodded. I'll give you whatever space you need, I swear. But first, let me say one thing. She didn't answer. He continued anyway. Soft, raw, steady. You are not a secret to me. Not a scandal. Not a name in a file buried in my father's past. Her throat tightened painfully. You are the most real thing in my life, he whispered. And whatever the truth is, whatever our parents did or didn't do, it does not define you. And it sure as hell does not define us. A tear slipped down her cheek before she could stop it. Us, she repeated. There can't be an us until I know who I am. Logan's breath trembled. Then let me help you find out. She shook her head. This isn't your burden. It becomes my burden the moment someone threatens you, he said fiercely. And that picture, that message. They crossed a line. She swallowed. I don't want you getting caught in my past. He stepped closer, slow, reverent. I'm already caught, he said softly. His voice broke something inside her, something hard, something brittle, something she'd held for years without realizing how heavy it was. She looked away, fighting the pull toward him. I don't know if I can trust you. I know, he whispered. But I'm not asking for trust. I'm asking for time. Just time. To help you uncover the truth. To protect you from whoever sent that photo. To stand with you through all of this. He exhaled shakily. And if at the end of it you still don't want me, I'll walk away. Her heart seized. Because she knew he meant it. She stepped back, blinking through the sting in her eyes. I need a few hours. He nodded. I'll wait. The simplicity of it, the quiet devotion, was almost her undoing. She turned away before she did something reckless. She walked for hours, through the historic district, past the markets, down small alleys where tourists rarely went. Her feet moved on instinct. Her mind replayed everything: her mother's laugh, her childhood birthdays, the nights she stayed up studying by lamplight, the times she wondered why she never resembled anyone in family photos. Sadness layered with anger, anger layered with longing, longing layered with something softer whenever she thought of Logan. By dusk, she found herself back at her apartment, barely remembering the path she'd taken. She unlocked the door, stepped inside, and froze. Someone had been there. Her lamp was on, her blinds slightly open, and on her kitchen counter sat an envelope, her name written in handwriting she didn't recognize. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. Inside was a single piece of paper. Your mother didn't leave to protect you. She left to protect him. If Logan learns the real reason, You'll lose him forever. Her blood chilled. On the bottom corner was a small crest, a golden P. Pierce, but not the modern company logo. Older, more traditional, family. There was also a number, just 10 digits, a phone number. Beneath it, one final line: call if you want the truth. But once you do, there's no going back. Tasha's breath faltered. The room seemed to tilt, shadows suddenly darker. Her phone buzzed. A text from Logan. Are you safe? Please tell me you're safe. She stared at the message, then at the envelope, then at the number that promised answers and danger. Her heart thundered in her chest, the weight of choice suffocating. Slowly, Tasha lifted her phone, and for the first time in her life, she didn't know who she was about to call. Tasha stared at the phone number written in that crisp, practiced handwriting, just 10 digits, ordinary and horrifying all at once. The kind of number that changed lives. The kind of number people whispered about but never dialed. Her pulse drummed beneath her skin. She shouldn't be doing this. She knew she shouldn't. But her mother's silence, her entire childhood of blanks and omissions. The photograph, the threat, the folder with her mother's medical records. It was too much to carry without answers. The lamp flickered, shadows stretching across her living room, like fingers urging her toward or away from something enormous. Her phone buzzed again. Logan. I'm outside. I'll stay on the street. I won't come up unless you ask. Her breath hitched. He was close. Too close. Close enough to save her or break her. And maybe that was why she made the choice she did. She wiped her palms on her jeans, took a steadying breath, and dialed the number. It rang twice. Then a voice answered, smooth, deep, commanding, in a way that made her skin crawl. Tasha Morgan. Not a question. A certainty. Who is this? She demanded. A soft exhale, almost amused. Someone who knew your mother. Someone who knows what she truly fled from. Her grip tightened around the phone. Then tell me why she ran. A long pause. A measured one. The kind created by a man who held power and enjoyed it. She left because she carried a secret that could ruin a dynasty, he said. And because the Pierces made sure she understood the cost of staying. Tasha's heart lurched. Who are you? I am Lionel Pierce, he said. And Logan is my grandson. The world tilted violently. She gripped the counter to stay upright as bile burned her throat. Lionel Pierce, the patriarch, the architect of the Pierce Empire, the man whose influence stretched across states and into rooms where decisions were made about other people's lives. And he had just called her. Why contact me? She whispered. Because you deserve the truth, Lionel said. And because Logan is walking into something he doesn't understand. He believes he's protecting you, but he doesn't know the full story. Suspicion flared hot. And you do. I lived it. The weight of those 3 words pressed against her ribcage. What do you want from me? She asked. To warn you, Lionel said. If Logan learns exactly what happened between your mother and my son, he will blame himself. And the boy does not need another ghost. The boy. He talked about Logan like he wasn't a man with a mind and heart of his own, but a piece on a board. You're lying, she said. You're manipulating me. I have no reason to lie, Lionel replied. The truth alone is enough to keep you awake at night. A chill crawled over her arms. Tell me, she demanded. Not on the phone, he said smoothly. Come to the estate, tomorrow at noon. Alone. No Logan. Her pulse spiked. Absolutely not. Tasha, Lionel said softly. Too softly. I'm the one who sent the envelope, and I'm the one who can answer your questions. But I'm also the one who decides what Logan learns and when. Something inside her snapped. You threatened me. she hissed. You sent someone to watch me. No, Lionel corrected. I sent someone to protect you. Charleston holds many dangers for a woman walking into old secrets. He was twisting the truth, she could feel it, wrapping threads of fear and guilt around her until she couldn't breathe. There is something you need to understand, he continued. Your mother was a remarkable woman, but she made choices, and so must you. What choices, she demanded. Silence hummed through the line. Then, come tomorrow, and I will tell you who your father really was. The floor seemed to drop out beneath her. The line clicked dead. Tasha stood frozen, the phone trembling in her hand. Her breath came in short, shallow gasps. She pressed her palm to her mouth, the world blurring. Her father. Her father. The man she'd never known. The man her mother never spoke of. The man who might be connected to the Pierces in ways she'd never imagined. The lamp flickered again. A soft knock sounded at her door. Tasha Logan's voice, gentle, worried, heartbreakingly familiar. Are you okay? She turned slowly, the room spinning around her. Can I come in? He asked. Her chest tightened painfully. Her first instinct was to say no, to push him away before the weight of all this crushed them both. But another part of her, the part that had leaned toward his warmth, his honesty, the tenderness in his voice, wanted him here more than she wanted answers. She swallowed hard. Yes. The door opened. He stepped inside, rain-damp and breathless blue eyes full of concern. I was worried, he said softly. You didn't answer. I didn't know if... His gaze caught the open envelope on the counter. He went still. Tasha, he whispered. What is that? Her throat tightened. Something left for me. By who? She hesitated. He stepped closer, voice low and steady. Please don't shut me out. Not now. She lifted her eyes to his. Your grandfather, she said. Logan blanched. What? He contacted me, she said. Just now. His expression shifted from shock to anger to something heavy and unreadable. What did he say? Logan asked, voice trembling with barely contained rage. She shook her head. He wants to meet. Tomorrow. Alone. He threatened you, Logan said. I can see it in your eyes. It wasn't a direct threat. Tasha. His voice was fierce, protective. Lionel Pierce hasn't done anything direct in his entire life. His whole existence is built on controlling people from the shadows. She looked at him. Really looked. His fury wasn't cold. It wasn't inherited. It was personal, human, raw. He said he knew my mother, she whispered. He said she left Charleston because of something she was protecting. Logan's expression cracked. A quiet ache spilled through his features. And I wasn't allowed to know any of it, he whispered. She approached him slowly, like approaching a wounded animal she didn't want to startle. Logan, she murmured, did you know him, your grandfather, not the way a child should? His laugh was soft and bitter. He raised my father like a soldier. He raised me like a symbol. He doesn't love people, he uses them. And me, she whispered. He met her gaze with a fierce tenderness that nearly undid her. He can't use you, because I won't let him. Her breath caught, because something warm and dangerous unfurled inside her trust. But trust was a step she feared taking. Logan, she said softly, there's something else. What? He said he knows who my father was. Logan froze. A beat, then another. He swallowed hard. Tasha, I want to help you find the truth. But whatever Lionel is holding, he will twist it. I know, she whispered. But I can't walk away. He stepped closer, cupping her face in both hands, not claiming but anchoring. Tasha, he breathed. I'm terrified of what he'll do to you. Not physically, emotionally. He knows how to break people from the inside. Her eyes stung. You don't get to protect me from my own past, she said gently. I'm not trying to protect you. His forehead touched hers. I'm trying to stay standing while watching you walk straight into a fire I can't put out. Her hands rose trembling to rest lightly on his wrists. Then walk with me, she whispered. His breath hitched, a sound of longing and fear intertwined. I'm with you, he said. Always. Something inside her broke open. She leaned into him, and he pulled her into a fierce embrace, strong arms wrapping around her like he was holding the only thing in his world that made sense. No kiss. Just breath. Heartbeats. Two people clinging to each other while everything around them shifted like unstable ground. When they finally separated, his eyes were glassy with emotion. We face him together, he said. No, she shook her head. He said alone. If you come, he'll shut down. I don't care. But I do. Her voice cracked. I need him to talk. The fear that flickered across Logan's face nearly shattered her. But he nodded. Then I'll wait outside, he said. If he tries anything, I'm coming in. She swallowed, touched beyond words. I'll message you, she whispered. He nodded again. Then he stepped back, pain and devotion warring in his eyes. I don't know what he'll tell you, he said. But whatever it is, I won't let it change the way I feel about you. Her heart squeezed. Even if it changes the way I feel about myself, she whispered. His voice was low and absolute, especially then. She exhaled, trembling. Tomorrow at noon, her past would stop being a shadow and finally become a name. She wasn't sure whether it would save her or destroy her, but she knew one thing. She wouldn't face it alone. The Pierce estate didn't look like a place where truth lived. It rose from the manicured grounds like an artifact from another century. Columns, towering windows, glittering the kind of silence that swallowed sound instead of echoing it. Old money had a way of pretending time didn't touch it, and this estate was no exception. Tasha's ride from Charleston felt far too short. She had barely stopped shaking when the car pulled through the iron gates. The air smelled of trimmed hedges stone, and the faintest hint of sea salt carried inland by the wind. Logan followed behind in his own car, staying back just as he promised. When she stepped out, he didn't approach, only met her gaze across the gravel driveway. A warning, a promise, a plea. Text me the moment you're in trouble, he'd said. She nodded once to him now, more to steady herself than to reassure him, and turned toward the heavy wooden doors. They opened before she could knock. A butler in gray gloves bowed slightly. Miss Morgan, Mr. Pierce is expecting you. The air inside was colder than outside, not in temperature, in spirit. Portraits stared down from the walls. Pierce men with hard eyes and stiff collars, their wives pale and perfect beside them. Tasha didn't see herself reflected in any of them. She felt like a smudge on a flawless painting. She was escorted through hallways of marble and silence until the butler stopped at a pair of double doors. He's inside, the man said quietly, too quietly, as if to warn her, as if he knew what waited. Tasha inhaled once, then entered. Lionel Pierce looked nothing like Logan. Logan carried softness in his eyes, humanity in his gestures, vulnerability in the way he breathed her name. Lionel carried none. He sat in a leather armchair by the fireplace, silver hair, combed back posture impeccable, a cane resting across his lap, though he didn't seem to need it. His eyes sharp, icy blue found her instantly. Tasha, he said, as if greeting a distant relative, instead of the daughter of a woman he'd tried to erase from history. You came. She remained standing. Let's not pretend this is cordial, she said. You left an envelope in my home. That makes this, whatever this is, something else entirely. His lips twitched approval or amusement she couldn't tell. You have her fire, he said. Your mother always had a sharp tongue when she chose to use it. She felt the words like a phantom hand gripping her throat. My mother, she repeated, voice thin, is the reason I'm here. You said you could tell me who my father was. Lionel leaned back in his chair. I can. Silence stretched taut and thin. Then tell me. He studied her with an unsettling calm. First, answer a question. What did you think when you saw that hospital record? That my entire life might be a lie? Good. His voice cut through the air. You're starting where you should. She gritted her teeth. Stop circling. Say what you came to say. Lionel folded his hands atop his cane. Your father was Edward Pierce Logan's father. Her breath vanished. Not biologically, Lionel added as if tossing her a life raft, but in every way that mattered. She clutched the back of a nearby chair to steady herself. Explain. Lionel's eyes narrowed, as though calculating how much truth she could handle. Edward knew your mother from a volunteer medical program in Savannah, he said. He was a med student then. Idealistic, foolish, too open-hearted for the Pierce legacy. And they fell in love, she whispered. Lionel's silence was confirmation. And you destroyed it. His expression didn't flicker. I redirected it. For everyone's sake. Everyone, she snapped. You mean yours. I mean the legacy, he corrected sharply. Your mother was a brilliant woman, but the world we lived in then was not made for people like her to stand beside people like us. Rage bloomed under her skin. People like her, she repeated, voice low and dangerous. A black woman, Lionel said bluntly but not cruelly, simply stated as if naming the weather. And Edward, the heir to a white Southern empire. You understand the scandal, the press, the shareholders, the board, the threats, the consequences. You were afraid of mixed blood, she spat. Of a woman who didn't fit your image. I was afraid, Lionel said, of losing everything my father built. What I built. Because Edward refused to marry anyone but her. Her breath shuddered. Her mother had been loved, deeply, all-consuming. The kind of love that defied rules. And when she got pregnant, Tasha whispered. His eyes held hers without blinking. I intervened. Cold spread through her chest. Intervened, she said. You forced her to leave. I convinced her, Lionel corrected. The threats came from others. I made her an offer that kept you safe. Tasha's lungs burned. Safe from what? Lionel paused, the first sign of hesitation showing. Then, from becoming a pawn in a war you didn't ask to be born into. Her stomach twisted. You think that's noble? No, he said quietly. It's necessary. The crackle of the fireplace filled the silence between them. Tasha's voice trembled. Why contact me now? Because Logan has feelings for you, Lionel said. Feelings he won't walk away from. And if he learns the truth about his father, about what was taken from him, he will tear apart everything my son built in the process. And you want me to stop him? She said bitterly. I want you to understand the consequences, Lionel corrected. He lifted a thin folder from the table beside him. Your mother wrote a letter, he said, before she left. She asked me to give it to you one day if this moment ever came. Tasha froze. Her heart hammered so fiercely she thought she might collapse. A letter, she whispered. Lionel extended it. Her hands shook as she took it, the envelope worn at the edges, her mother's handwriting looping across the front. She didn't open it. Not yet. Lionel's voice softened unexpectedly. She loved you more than anything in this world. Every choice she made was to protect you. Tasha swallowed, throat tight. From you? From the Pierce name, he said, and from the man she knew her daughter would grow to love. Her blood ran cold. What she breathed. Lionel looked at her with a gaze too knowing. Edward loved your mother. But Logan. His eyes softened just slightly. Logan looks at you like a man starving for something real. A tear slipped down her cheek. She hadn't meant to let it fall. And that Lionel said is what will destroy him. Her voice cracked. Why? Why would loving me destroy him? Because legacy is fragile, Lionel said. Once broken, it never reforms the same way. If Logan chooses you, really chooses you, he will lose the Pierce empire. Board control, power, influence, everything his father prepared him for. She stepped back. He never cared about the empire. And that Lionel said softly, is exactly why he cannot be allowed to choose you. It will ruin him. The words slammed into her chest. Her knees nearly buckled. And then, a sound behind her. Footsteps. Familiar. Unwelcome. The door swung open without knocking. Logan. His chest rose and fell sharply like he had run through every hallway to reach her. He took one look at her tear-streaked face. One look at his grandfather holding court. And something inside him snapped. What did you say to her? Logan's voice was low and lethal. Lionel didn't rise. Only the truth. Tasha, Logan said, moving toward her. You shouldn't be here. I told you she needed to come alone, Lionel said. And I told you, Logan snapped, that she doesn't answer to you. He reached for her, but she stepped back. Both men froze. Tasha, Logan whispered. Her hand hovered over the envelope, the weight of a lifetime in her palm. I can't do this, she breathed. Do what? Logan's voice was raw. Talk to him. Hear his lies. No, she whispered. Be the reason you lose everything. His face crumpled. Tasha. No. No. You don't get to decide that. I choose. You don't know what you're choosing, she choked out. Not yet. Tasha. But she was already turning away, the envelope pressed to her chest like a shield and a wound all at once. She walked past him before she shattered completely. And Logan, the man who had caught her in a pharmacy, the man who had waited on a street for her, the man who had promised to walk through fire with her, stood frozen in place, breaking silently as she left. Tasha didn't look back, because if she did, she wasn't sure she'd survive whatever she saw in his eyes. The front doors closed behind her with a final echoing thud. Outside, the sky had darkened. Distant thunder rumbled. She clutched the envelope with both hands, pressing it to her heart. Tomorrow she would open it. Tomorrow she would learn the truth. Tonight, she was drowning in a truth of her own. Loving Logan Pierce might be the one thing that could ruin them both. Rain hammered her windows like 1,000 restless fingers. Tasha sat on the edge of her bed, the letter lying across her knees. The envelope felt impossibly light for something that weighed so much on her chest. Every inhale came too shallow. Every exhale felt scraped from bone. She loved you more than anything. Lionel's words echoed through her skull. Words she didn't trust. Words she couldn't ignore. She slid her thumb under the flap, ripped it open, and unfolded the page within thin, delicate, her mother's handwriting looping in familiar curls. Her breath trembled as she began to read. My Tasha, if you're holding this letter, I couldn't protect you from the truth forever. You're old enough now to know why I left Charleston, and why I never spoke of your father. His name was Edward Pierce. He was the great love of my life, and the greatest danger I ever faced. Tasha's heart stopped. She had expected hints, not confessions, not love laid so bare across ink and paper. She continued, Edward wanted you, desperately. We planned to leave together, start fresh. But his family, they were powerful, terrified of scandal, and terrified of me. I was not the woman they wanted for the heir. A black girl from the wrong side of the tracks, smart enough to challenge them, strong enough to stand beside him. A tear slid down Tasha's cheek. When I became pregnant, their fear turned vicious. Your grandfather came to me first, calm, calculated, promising money, safety, anonymity. Then the threats came. Not from him, from people behind him, people whose names I will not put on paper. Tasha pressed a hand to her abdomen, nausea twisting. Edward tried to fight. He tried harder than anyone gave him credit for. He begged me to stay. He said he'd burn the whole Pierce empire for us. Tasha closed her eyes, chest tightening. It sounded like something Logan would say. But I had you growing inside me. And a mother does not gamble with her child's life. So I left him, Tasha. Not because I stopped loving him, because I loved you more. Her breath broke on a sob. He never knew how much danger he was in. Never knew the threats weren't directed at me, they were aimed at him. If he left his family for me, they would destroy him. And I could not let your father die for loving us. The room tilted. Tasha clutched the letter to steady herself. So I chose the only path that guaranteed your safety, disappearing. I disappeared from Charleston, from Edward, from the life I wanted, because I wanted you more. More tears blurred the page. If you ever meet a Pierce again, especially his son, know this. You are not their secret. You are not their shame. You were born of love so fierce it nearly broke two families apart. The next words gutted her. And if that boy, Edward's son, finds his way to you one day, do not punish him for what came before him. He is his father's heart, not his grandfather's legacy. Her breath caught. Her mother had known. She had known Tasha might cross paths with Logan someday. But be careful, my brave girl. The Pierces will not tolerate history repeating itself. If love finds you again, protect it. Fight for it. But do not let it destroy you. I love you always. Mom. By the time she reached the end, Tasha was shaking so hard she almost dropped the letter. The rain outside intensified, as if the sky itself were grieving with her. She pressed the page to her chest, tears soaking into the ink. Her mother had loved her. Her father had loved her. And the Pierces. The Pierces had feared her before she was even born. A soft knock at the door made her flinch. Her breath froze. Tasha. Logan's voice. Low, hoarse, broken. Of course he came. Of course he didn't stay away. She wiped her face quickly, as if she could hide the wreck she'd become, then opened the door. Logan stood, drenched rain dripping from his hair shirt, clinging to his chest. He looked like a man who'd run through a storm without thinking. His eyes, God, his eyes looked raw, stripped to the core. I shouldn't be here, he whispered. But I couldn't. His voice cracked. I couldn't leave you alone tonight. She didn't speak. She couldn't. He saw the letter in her hand. His chest tightened. You read it. She nodded. What did it say? Her throat worked. Everything. He drew a shaky breath, stepping closer but slowly, giving her space. Tell me, he murmured. Please. She swallowed hard. It said your father loved my mother, that they were going to leave together, that your family intervened. He closed his eyes briefly, pain twisting through his expression. But she left to protect him. Tasha continued softly. She didn't choose fear. She chose love. Something inside Logan shattered. She could see it. And she said, Tasha hesitated. She said you are your father's heart, that you're not responsible for what came before. Logan's lashes glistened with rain, not all of it from the storm outside. But she also said something else, Tasha whispered. What? That the Pierces won't let history repeat itself. He opened his eyes, then blue and raw and terrified. Tasha, he said, stepping closer. I don't care about their rules, their empire, their name. I don't care what they try to take from me. You are not a mistake I'm willing to walk away from. Her breath hitched. This will destroy your family. Then let it, he whispered. I'm not them. Her chest ached with the weight of wanting him, wanting all the things she feared she couldn't have. Logan, she said softly, you didn't grow up with my reality. You don't know what it means to be a black woman in a white legacy's shadow. You think love is enough, but love doesn't erase consequences. He stepped closer. Pain etched into every line of him. Then let me carry some of those consequences with you. You can't, she whispered. Why not? Because you don't know what you'd lose. Yes, I do, he said. I'd lose everything that doesn't matter and keep the one thing that does. His words unraveled something deep inside her. But there was a truth she couldn't unhear. He didn't threaten me, she said. Your grandfather didn't say he'd hurt me. Logan frowned. Then what? He said loving me would destroy you. A beat of silence fell between them. Then Logan whispered, only if I let it. Tasha closed her eyes, tears flooding again. I don't want to be the thing that costs you your life, your career, your family. He shook his head. You're not a cost, but you'll pay one, she whispered. He reached out slowly, covering her hand where it clutched her mother's letter. Then let me pay it, he said. Let me choose you, Tasha. She looked up at him, heart splitting. You don't understand, she murmured. You're not choosing between me and a legacy. He frowned. What do you mean? You're choosing between me and the truth about your father. His entire body went still. What truth? She placed the letter in his hand. He unfolded it, read it in silence, every line deepening the storm inside him. By the end, he was shaking. My father loved her, he whispered. His voice broke. He loved her enough to leave everything. Tasha nodded. Logan's breath trembled. If I choose you, it means admitting he died, believing she stopped loving him, believing she abandoned him, believing he wasn't worth fighting for. She stepped closer, eyes soft. He didn't die thinking that. He died never knowing the truth. That's worse, Logan whispered. He lived a life built on a lie. Her heart ached for him. You're not responsible for his life, she said gently. No, he murmured, but I'm responsible for what comes next. His eyes lifted to hers, and she saw it. The weight, the grief, the impossible decision forming in his chest. Her breath caught. Logan, what are you thinking? He lifted a trembling hand to her cheek. I'm thinking. He whispered that I love you. Her heart stopped. But I don't know how to love you without betraying the man my father was. A tear slid down her face. Then maybe she whispered, voice breaking. You need time. He shook his head slowly. No. Time won't change what I have to face, which is what she breathed. Logan stepped back. Just one step. But it felt like a chasm. That loving you means choosing the truth over the legacy, he said. But I can't choose anything until I confront him. Her voice shook. Your grandfather? No, Logan whispered. My father. Tasha stared at him. He wasn't speaking metaphorically. He wasn't speaking emotionally. He was speaking literally. Logan, she whispered, your father is dead. His eyes burned with something fierce and broken. Then I guess it's time, he said softly, to dig up the truth anyway. Her heart splintered, because she knew what that meant. He wasn't choosing between her and the Pierces. He was choosing between her and the person he always wanted his father to be. And no love, no matter how powerful, could compete with a son's grief. "Logan," she whispered, voice cracking, "don't do this." He stepped back again, another inch of distance slicing between them. "Tasha, I have to." Her breath trembled. "And us." He closed his eyes, agony twisting his face. "Us," he murmured, "deserves the truth too." Thunder cracked outside. Rain battered the windows. And Logan Pierce, the man who had caught her when she fell, turned and left before she could fall again. The door closed behind him with a soft, devastating click. Tasha stood alone in the storm-lit room, her mother's letter trembling in her hands. History was repeating, but this time she didn't know if love could survive it. To be continued.